Hello friends, today we'll talk about the summary of the week for Ukraine and around Ukraine, and of course we will start from the counter-offensive operation of Ukraine in the South Front, near the Zaporizhia and Kherson Oblast. This counter-offensive operation started at least 4th or 6th June this year, but nowadays it is only in the first stage. In the stage of trying to find the weak places in the Russian defense line, which was built in the south of Ukraine for more than 6 months. Nowadays, Ukraine is trying to make very accurate advances on the Energodar Tokmak direction and on the Veremeyevka place region to the Mariupol, to the Berdyansk direction, and also Ukraine is trying to attempt near the Ugledar. For the first week of this counter-offensive operation, Ukraine moved forward from 60 or 8 kilometers on the one direction and a smaller one for another directions. It's not so fast, 1 kilometer per day, but it's first stage. We are trying to find the weak places in Russian defense. We are making the reconnaissance operation, reconnaissance in force operation in these days, and I think Ukraine will continue this operation for 1 or 2 weeks more, and then after the researching this information, obtained information, Ukraine will make maybe 1 or 2 main strikes on the concrete direction. Of course, the more perspective direction looks for the Berdyansk, and the main goal of Ukrainian offensive operation may be the dividing Russian forces in the south of Ukraine into parts. In part near the Crimea, Kherson part, in part near the Mariupol, and broken so-called land-sky bridge from Russian territory to the Crimea, which is going on through the Azov Sea coast nowadays. But also we see a lot of moving the troops to another direction, to the direction of the north part of Lugansk Oblast and to the direction near the Bakhmut also. It can show us that another strikes, another directions of Ukrainian counteroffensive operation should be done, and I will not be surprised if, for example, for the main direction of this operation, counteroffensive operation, Ukraine will choose quite another another territory, not the south front, but somewhere in the north of Lugansk Oblast, and so on. There are a lot of political symbolic around this counteroffensive operation. For example, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, in his interview to BBC News, said that if Ukrainian counteroffensive operation will be successful, it means Russian defeat in general in war. But the Secretary of NATO, General Secretary of NATO, Mr. Stoltenberg, said that this counteroffensive operation could not be a pivot moment in this war. I think in any case, success or not success in this counteroffensive operation, it doesn't lead us to the end of the war. In any case, Russia will continue this war. But success of this operation also means success of Ukraine, and also means success of Zelensky, and also it leads us to the opening, widening, deepening the Western support to Ukraine, and to to strengthen the role and place of Zelensky inside of Ukrainian political system. It's very important. All the countries around the world understanding that in any case, the Ukrainian offensive operation will be ended. Maybe in the August, maybe in the middle of October this year, and we see some kind of festival, carnival, even peaceful plans and initiatives from different other countries. These days in Europe and Ukraine and Russia is a big delegation of African countries, South Africa, Senegal, Zambia, Egypt, Comoros Islands, and other countries, leaders in Ukraine, and they brought to Ukraine their peaceful propositions. We don't know exactly what is there, what in that case, but the information agency Reuters wrote that this plan consists of a few main ideas. The first idea that Russia has to take off her forces, her army from the territory of Ukraine. Russia has to take her tactical nuclear weapon from the Belarus. And from another side, the Western countries should make weakening the sanctions against of Russia, and International Criminal Court can postpone or frozen his decision on the Putin investigation. All these ideas are oriented to the strengthening of negotiation and trust between the sides. And after this stage, African countries propose to start negotiations, trade negotiation between the Russia and Ukraine and between the Russia and Western countries. What is interesting that these ideas, if Reuters true, I don't know it, and nobody knows if these ideas are real ideas of African countries. They are quite different from the Chinese propositions. And it looks like this is some kind of compromise in between Chinese propositions and such type of propositions like Chinese propositions, which propose for us to stop the war, to stop the fight at the first, and then to start negotiations, and Ukrainian propositions, which looks like an ultimatum for Russia, when Russia should take off all the forces from all the lands of Ukraine, including the Crimea. Russia should pay a compensation for Ukraine and should punish the war criminals, militaries. It's ultimatum, and the African plan it looks like a compromise between them. We'll see how to accept this proposition in Moscow and Kyiv, but in Kyiv the level of negotiation between Ukraine and these African countries is very high. Also because Ukraine is preparing the peaceful summit in the beginning of the July, maybe from 2nd till 10th of July this year, maybe in some of North European countries. And Ukraine is going to use this summit to promote Ukrainian peaceful plan, 10 steps of Mr. Zelensky, of President of Ukraine. And Ukraine is looking Ukraine wants to invite to this peaceful summit as much countries as is possible, and also Ukraine is willing to involve to this summit countries from the global south, Latin America, Africa, or Asia, to make this summit as much representative as is possible. So this negotiation process is also could be a part of a game between Ukraine and other countries. This week also was very interesting because of a new meeting in Rammstein group and new meeting in Commission between Ukraine and NATO. Rammstein group made a few important announcements. Some countries made announcements that they are going to continue support of Ukraine and to give Ukraine more anti-aircraft rocket systems, shells for artillery, and armored vehicles, and another more equipment. Two countries, Netherlands and the Danish, made a decision to start a preparation, education of Ukrainian pilots on F-16 aircraft systems. Talking about the NATO in Ukraine, Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, Mr. Reznikov, said that the level of cooperation between Ukraine and NATO is growing, and commission between Ukrainian nowadays commission between Ukraine and NATO, which was founded in 1997, is going to be re-established to the Council, Ukrainian NATO Council, which gives Ukrainians, authorities, representatives ability to take part in different levels of working of NATO. And maybe this proposition to re-establish this council is also as a part of compensation package of Ukraine, because we are talking about before the NATO summit in Vilnius, where Ukraine will not be accepted to the NATO, will not obtain the status member country for NATO. It's quite clear from the statements from Western partners and from the status of Ukraine leadership also. But our Western partners and NATO partners of Ukraine is looking some kind of compensation package, what to do for this decline will not make a political crisis, political problem for Zelensky, military problem as so on. So it should be some kind of new guarantees for Ukraine, maybe Israeli model of 10 years equipment of Ukrainian military forces, maybe some kind of document between Ukraine and NATO where will be ability and where will be stated some kind of duties for NATO to accept Ukraine after ending this war. We will see. In any case, it's very interesting. And also a very important things are going around the Trump, but I'm not going to. I just wanted to say it. You just see what is going around Trump. 37 new investigation and claims to Trump. It's of course it's a part of American election. And also it was a very interesting meeting between the Putin and bloggers and military correspondents, journalists in Russia. Why this meeting and dialogue, public dialogue is interesting? Because it looks like Putin not only would like to take control over this passionate part of the Russian society, which make a lot of problem for Russian government nowadays, but also he was trying to push down the level of escalation, the level of estimation from this part. Putin was talking about that they are not going to obtain all the Ukraine, and even new attempt to Kyiv is not possible nearest time, because it needs to make a new level of mobilization, and Russia is not ready for it, is not going to do it. Putin was trying to make down these announcements and to calm down these announcements and worries in the Russian society. And also Putin, it looked like the Putin transferring thoughts that Russia is ready to stop on that positions, on that areas which they captured for now, and they are not going to further. Maybe it's some kind of signal to the Western societies that we are ready to go to negotiation and we are ready to stop this war. Maybe it's a trick. It's like some kind of Mongolian trick. During the Mongolian attacks in 13th centuries, the Mongolian army used Genghis Khan's army, used such type of attack when the weak Mongolian war's troops started the attack to the enemy, and then demonstrated that they are scary and became into escape, and enemies which are trying to lead behind this escaping Mongolian troops going down to the trap because the main Mongolian forces was prepared to attack these enemy troops. It can be some kind of this Mongolian trap to show the weakness of Russia, to show their readiness to negotiation from one side, and from another side to prepare the new strike and to continue to attempts to achieve main Ukrainian lands and main Ukrainian population. Very interesting week. Friends, don't forget to subscribe for this channel. Please write down your question, and I will it will be very, very honor for me to talk with you. And from my side, I promise you to share only balanced and rational thoughts in this channel. No propaganda, no manipulation, just a thinking together about the situation in Ukraine and around Ukraine. See you. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye-bye.